York's classic rock, Q1043.
We have a very, very special anniversary coming up this year.
We sure do.
The 50th anniversary of the legendary 3 Days of Peace and Music, the Woodstock Music and Arts Festival, and the guy who thought it up, along with a buddy of his.
A visionary.
Michael Lang is here with us this morning. It's so nice to see you, sir.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to see you guys, too.
But I must say, and please forgive me for this, but you know, I was too young for Woodstock. I was 16 years old and lived in Michigan. So, you know, it was not an event that I could attend. You were in charge of Woodstock, so the assumption is that you're older than I am. So what I want to know is, why do you look younger? What kind of healthy life have you been living? I mean, Shelley, look at him.
You look great, Michael.
Thank you.
It's the music, right?
It must be the music. It's nothing else I've done. So.
Well, you know, yes, it was, I guess, from a purely commercial point of view, it was kind of a money-losing event, since almost everyone in attendance got in for free. But it changed history. I mean, they should, in the town of Woodstock, which was very far away from where the festival took place, they should build a statue honoring you, because that town has benefited from your use of the name for half a century now.
It has become the best-known small town probably in the world. That's true.
How did the idea come to you? How did this all come about?
You know, it kind of evolved over time. It was the 60s. And I was very involved in the counterculture. I had left NYU in 1965 and moved to Coconut Grove, Florida, to open a head shop, a real career plan. and we, you know, we were, I think, the second or third head shop on the East Coast, and became kind of the center of this counterculture down there, and started bringing music in, and eventually produced the Miami Pop Festival with Rick O'Barry, who was one of my good friends. He was actually the trainer of the Flipper Dolphins.
Really?
Yeah, at Ivan Tours Studios, where Flipper was filmed. And that was kind of a revelation for me. You know, it was inspired by Monterey. I thought, you know,
sure.
What could be cooler than that, you know? So we had a very short time to put it together. We had 6 weeks.
But you did come up with something. You did come up with something cooler than that. You know, you just referred to Monterey, going, "What could be cooler than that?" Well, Woodstock was cooler than that
in its own way.
Yeah.
And, you know, Monterey was a wonderful thing, and the first really of that type. So
yeah, but
we have to give it kudos.
People.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking about, yes, Monterey was extraordinarily important in the history of music, but it wasn't quite the cultural
shift
event that Woodstock was.
That's true. I mean, it was early on in terms of counterculture and kind of the movement, if you will. And you know, after that, I moved back up to New York. I moved to the town of Woodstock in 1968. And that summer, I was in attendance at what were called sound outs. And they were overnight concerts that were being done at a little farm right outside of town. You know, very casual, 400 or 500 people, and you'd spend the night under the stars listening to, you know, local bands and local music. But, you know, that was Van Morrison and Richie Havens up there. So it was amazing. And, you know, you could sort of smoke a joint with your friends and not be hassled and spend the night under the stars and, you know, paradise, really. So
we need to bring them back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
For a whole new
It was
generation.
an amazing experience. And you know, that was a revelation also about kind of bringing people out into nature and really making that kind of the setting for an event like Woodstock. And I met Artie Kornfeld, who was a vice president at Capitol Records at the time, and was also from my neighborhood. And I was working with a band and went to see him about that. And we kind of became immediate friends. You know, sometimes you meet someone and it's like you've always known them. And that's what happened with Artie and I. And just started talking about, you know, what was going on in the counterculture. And, you know, by 1968, a lot of the dreams of the kind of flower power movement were dying. A lot of the political groups were turning violent because things weren't happening fast enough. You had the assassination of Martin Luther King and then Robert Kennedy. There were student riots in Europe and, really discontent all over. And we were facing this horrible draft that was affecting everybody's life. And a war that we all felt was, unjust and we didn't have any business being there. So that was kind of the world in which Woodstock was kind of thought up and created as kind of for me, in any case, just an attempt to see if we took people out of their kind of, this environment and brought them into nature and with great music and great art, and gave ourselves an opportunity to see how things would be if we were in charge. If we could actually live kind of the dream that we were, proposing to the world. And that was really what it was about. It was planned, to be kind of open to anybody who wanted to come, whether they had money or not. There were free stages, free kitchens, free campgrounds, and then of course everything became free.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really, sort of thought out that way. And we brought a group called the Hog Farm in from New Mexico, who were a commune used to outdoor events and camping out. And we were bringing, people from the inner cities to the country. A lot of them had never stepped foot in the country outside of a city. So they really needed some help in terms of how do you survive? How do you set up a camp? Things like that. And the Hog Farm did that as people came in, and then got them to help the next group coming in. So we started this community thing really right from the beginning.
And the programming was just stunning in its breadth. I mean, you had such a wide variety of artists sharing that stage.
We did. That was a lot of fun putting that together.
I mean, the Who and Jimi Hendrix, yes, but also, Bert Summer and Sha Na Na. And I mean, it was just an incredible lineup of talent. How on earth did you assemble such a group of artists?
Well, it was, a lot of it was just, bringing the artists together that were part of the counterculture. The musicians in those days and groups in those days were really of the counterculture and were writing about what we were living through, and were really the voice of that generation. And so, the Airplane and the Dead and people like that were just, kind of an automatic. Fun part.
Well, who was first to sign on?
The first three bands that I booked were Creedence Clearwater, the Jefferson Airplane, and Canned Heat.
Mm.
And
going up the country was perfect.
Yeah.
And, for me, I wasn't really known in the business. I wasn't of the business. I had done a couple of things in Miami, but that was it. So we needed some credibility. So we booked those acts first and, paid everybody really fast. And suddenly it became real to the industry. And then booking became a lot easier. And so, things like acts like Joe Cocker, who were unknown, and Santana, who hadn't even recorded, and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
It was their first appearance.
It was their second, actually. Yeah.
Oh, as a foursome, I thought it was.
As a foursome, it was the first.
Yeah.
And that was something. I was sitting in Hector Morales' office at William Morris doing the booking, and David Geffen came in with a test pressing of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and put it on, and it was like, okay, where do I sign? So those were really a lot of the kind of fun stuff for me, bringing new talent.
And on the 40th anniversary of Woodstock, we were extraordinarily fortunate to have with us in our studio to perform live with us that morning Richie Havens.
Oh, great.
The late great.
Yes, who recreated his legendary performance and told us a really amazing story about it.
Yeah.
So you, Michael Lang, have a very secure place in rock history, in American cultural history. But that doesn't mean that you're done yet.
No,
because as the 50th anniversary year is now underway, you are creating a 50th anniversary festival, an official Woodstock 50th anniversary festival.
Yes.
And it's going to be Not in Woodstock, but neither was the original.
That's right.
Watkins Glen.
Yes, that's correct.
Which has been the venue for more than one big festival through the years.
Yeah. There was a jam in 1973 that was kind of a surprise for everybody, just the numbers of people that turned up. And so it has a real history in music. When I first was sort of looking for a place to hold this 50th, I really wanted to keep it in New York. It's part of New York culture, and I thought that was really critical. And I was having trouble finding a place. And I remembered Watkins Glen, but I had this vision of it being just this big racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day I just figured I'd take a shot and drove up there and walked through the door, and the people were really nice and gave me a tour of the site. And, aside from there being this Formula One track, there was about 1,000 acres of greenfield right adjoining it as part of their property. And I just looked at that, and it was like perfect. There's infrastructure, it's beautiful. It's got a history, and that's how I picked Watkins Glen.
Now, it's going to be a 3-day event.
Yeah.
Friday, August 16th through Sunday, August 18th. Do you envision campers, or is there are there a lot of Airbnb places around there? I mean, people
I'm sure there are, and there will be more.
There are, but it's really a camping festival.
It's a camping
It's
festival.
a camping festival,
Okay.
and the hotel infrastructure is not great around there, so we'll be doing a lot of kind of glamping tent areas for people who would normally be in a hotel, but will have to be on site. But it's basically people will come and camp for the weekend. That's kind of part of the experience, is coming together and really becoming a community that lives together for 3 days.
Well, at this particular point in time, you don't have a lineup that you can publicly reveal.
That's right.
But you can give us clues or hints, can't you?
It's going to be amazing. I can tell you that. We're curating it very carefully. It'll be,
They didn't use that word in 1960.
No.
Curate, no. Maybe with
But
art,
that's what
not
we were
with
doing,
music.
actually.
Yes,
In fact,
but that term wasn't
Yeah.
used
No.
in
Or
that
glamping.
particular way.
Right.
Glamping
Or glamping, yes. A lot has changed. But we want to have representation of the original acts that were at Woodstock. Those that are still performing.
There's a clue.
It's not an old cella kind of thing. This is a very contemporary festival for young people. But there'll be some very interesting performances with tributes to some of the original acts who are no longer viable or no longer with us. And other than that, it's going to be very eclectic musically.
Well, you plan on having this as a very, very multi-generation.
Absolutely. That's right.
So that people who were there 50 years ago can enjoy themselves, and people who 25 years ago weren't even born yet can enjoy themselves.
Yes, exactly.
And who knows? Marijuana could be legal in New York by then. Who knows?
It's certainly heading that way.
Who would have thought?
I know.
So Friday,
Amazing.
August 16th through Sunday, August 18th at Watkins Glen International. It's the official Woodstock 50th Anniversary Festival. Now, that name is yours.
Yes.
Nobody else can use that name.
It belongs to myself and two of my original partners.
All right. Well, I think that's important
Yeah.
for people to understand. And the website is woodstock.com, Twitter at Woodstock Fest, Instagram at Woodstock, and Facebook at Woodstock Music Art Fair. Shelley, you were a young girl in Philadelphia, and I was a young guy in Michigan. And, a few announcements on WOR-FM was pretty much all it took. And 500,000 people went upstate to Bethel, New York. I mean,
I'm hearing the song in my head right now.
Really?
It's just absolutely amazing. And that was pretty much how the word got out, from what I understand.
It did through radio. I mean, Artie was very connected to FM radio, which was new at the time. But also we had established kind of this network of underground and college press all over the country. And that's really how the information came out. We wanted to make everybody feel a part of it, so we included them in kind of the planning of it. And that's really what created the groundswell.
Oh, so no, don't tell me now you're going to tweet the news when you have the lineup. Please don't tell me you're going to tweet it out.
No, tweet it like 5 minutes after you
Absolutely
speak into the microphone.
Yeah, right.
We're definitely kind of analog in that sense.
Okay.
All right. Well, Michael Lang, 50 years. It's a big task that you're taking on.
But one that's really full of joy, really. You know, it's for us, the inspiration was kind of the state of things in the world today. You know, a lot of the things that were created around the 60s, you know, the movements for the environment and organic foods and you know, compassion and a better way to sort of interact with each other. You know, we had come out of the civil rights movement and women's rights and equal rights, and we're really very involved in those issues and thought we could really make a difference and make a change. And these days, we seem to be living through the same lessons that we thought we learned, you know, with Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement and what's going on coming out of Washington. You know, this denial of global warming and things like that. It just seemed like we really need a reminder. And so we're hoping to energize people to get involved. You know, it's really, you know, built around activism and sustainability. And those are the two, you know, major themes of the festival. We'll have a lot of NGOs on site to help people get involved if they want to.
That means non-governmental organizations, right, for those people who
exactly
who aren't up on the abbreviations. Yeah.
And we want, you know, we're talking to artists who are also, you know, involved with social issues, and we want that to be a big theme of the festival. So
right on.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it back.
Learn more about official Woodstock 50 at their website, woodstock.com. Michael Lang, thank you so much for visiting.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.